Philip, we've got a question on graphics cards. Old graphics cards don't work with Final Cut Pro 10. Will the Radeon 5770 or 5870 work on a Mac Pro system?
To be honest, I'm not a hardware guy. There is limitation, but Dean is saying that they will, so I'm going to be good enough. I'd talk to Jeff Stansfield about that if Jeff's in the room, or if somebody's got a better answer down here. So the 5870 does work. So presumably the 5770 will probably work also. They both work? Thank you, Michael. Sorry, forgot we had another representative from a dealer there.
249 at the Apple Store.
249 at the Apple Store, but I'm sure the Keycode have it as well. And Jeff will do you a better deal.
Okay, this is a little bit of a longer question. We have 3 G5s, which are powered PCs, running Final Cut 6. In July, because of a new budget, they can buy new computers. We weren't allowed, under the existing budget, to buy until July. They share an Xan server RAID. We just tried to buy Final Cut 7 upgrades online, but Apple pulled it in mid-purchase. We shoot and lay out to DVCam tape only. What would you suggest we do? eBay. What can Final Cut 10 do that Adobe Premiere and Avid can't? Michael, you want to give a first shot of that?
Well, it can wash your car, for starters. I don't know how to answer that. I mean, is there a specific set of features? There are a number of features. But in other
words, let me just continue the second half of the question. In other words, why would you buy Final Cut 10 instead of its 2 competitors?
I feel like it's just too broad of a question.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know, my feeling is you have to look at what each of the pieces of software does. Final Cut 10, as it is right now, is optimized for tapeless workflow. Mm-hmm. It's optimized for a single person. It's got a great price point at $299. It has a huge amount of speed. Yeah. We've not been running it on particularly supercharged platforms, but the speed of this on anything in the last year and a half is blinding. It's really fast.
Even on this MacBook Air, which has a crappy graphics card, it's amazing. It really does run really well.
So if you're a standalone person that needs a lot of different controls in the software, that's tapeless, that's principally outputting to the web. And I don't mean CNN, iCitizen, or YouTube, but you're just trying to get stuff done for the web because the web is your principal form of output, whether you're exporting a QuickTime movie or exporting to Vimeo or something else. This is a very cool package. But if you're dealing in a work group, if you're dealing with tape-based, if you're dealing with high-end audio mixing, if you're dealing with multicam, it's not the right package. No. It's not blanket.
It really just comes down to your use case. At the moment, it fits the vast majority of their current Final Cut 7 users, but there are a lot of people that are not in the vast majority that are in that rest that it doesn't yet suit. And once again, I want to reinforce that it's a brand new piece of software. Despite its name, it's 10v1. In the same way that OS 10 has had 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, 10.4, we're not even at we're at 10.6 at the moment, so we're about to go to 10.7. Final Cut 10 will go the same way.
Michael, can you apply I think it's a 2.3 to 5.
2.35 mat, yeah.
Can you apply a 2.35 mat to the viewer?
And I was just trying to do it. Basically, the answer is no. The old widescreen mat filter that we had in Final Cut 7 there is not that mat. You can crop stuff. I mean, you could literally crop it. I was just playing with the mask filter here, which just gives you a square mask with 4 giant life preserver handles on them.
But they're cute life preservers.
They are, and they're giant. And you could simulate a 2.35, but there's no way of me knowing that was actually 2.35. That was just a random shape. So the answer is no, not specifically. Certainly not like the old filter. And similarly, it's not exactly related, but there's no timecode burn-in filter, which is used in a similar context. There's not a filter for that as well.
Can you see timecode of the source video?
No.
There is a timecode filter. There is a timecode generator.
Is there a timecode generator?
Yeah, there's a timecode generator you can attach to a clip.
But I think it shows sequence timecode.
Probably. I didn't. Yeah.
So GenArt's plugins may solve some of those missing plugins.
Like
I'm sure a mat's such an easy plugin. I'm sure somebody will do one quickly.
Plugins.
By the way, a really good point before I forget. All of the filters that are inside Final Cut are templates. They're all specifically motion templates, which means that if you don't have motion, you're stuck with or can use the templates that are inside Final Cut. But if you want to create your own custom filters, you have all the power of motion available to you, but you have to use motion to create that effect. then publish it, save it essentially as a template, and that publishing then brings it into Final Cut. So just as one of the reasons that motion is important to us is if you need to create your own customized transitions or customized effects, you do that in motion and bring it into Final Cut.
That's a great way, though, for a single motion graphics well, I wouldn't go expert with motion, but somebody who's developing the graphic look for a group of editors can create the transitions and effects and filters that are going to be used and titles that are going to be used for that project and keep them in a theme.
I just want to clarify that last question. The question was, can you see the source timecode for the clip timecode for a source clip? And the answer to that is yes. We were talking about the timecode filter, which you can't. But there is, if you select a source clip, you can first of all see it in the column here, and then also the current timecode field here, or whatever they call this, the dashboard cool window thing, displays the actual timecode from that source clip as well.
Can you see the timecode once it's edited into the timeline?
I don't think there's any way to do that.
Okay. That was, I guess I should have cleared up
the
my
question was? Yeah.
Michael, can you archive a project without deleting media and then bring that project back?
Make Philip answer that one.
Yeah, easy.
Yes, and one of the very cool things is if you go up to File and just hold that button down, notice near the bottom we have the ability to consolidate media. Consolidate means if I've got media stored on drive 2 and on drive 3, I can consolidate, bring all that media into a single folder on the drive of my choice. We also have the ability to archive media stored as a single file, which could be stored and put on a shelf or laid off to tape. So we have a consolidate and gather function that we never had before. Philip, can you keep all assets and the associated project file together on a connected drive? Think sharing a drive with other editors.
Absolutely. You can totally put all the assets together, and in fact, that's exactly what I was doing in my demo. I had my project, my event on my external drive, and I had my project on the external drive. I had in fact, I had two versions of the project on my external drive that I had locked off one and continued working on another. So, and that drive plugs in, and as soon as the drive is recognized, the events and projects appear in their relative libraries.
Just for people panicking, the only reason I'm skipping over cards is they're questions we've already asked. I'm not censoring them, I'm just not repeating them. Michael, you have more experience with Apple than the rest of us. What is the most effective way for LAFCPUG or members at LAFCPUG to communicate to Apple a wish list of improvements for Final Cut Pro 10?
Steve@apple.com, right?
Yeah. The official. Well, I did ask that question. I asked that question specifically this morning, and that provide feedback menu is going to be a lot more use. It's going to get read, unlike online petitions.
Oh, you should click that and see what the icon looks like.
What do you mean?
No, they were updating that today,
Yeah.
so that's probably changed by now to be the.
I'm not.
No.
Michael, can you edit to tape with a Kona 3 card?
Not currently. There's no device control for tape decks built into the software, and currently there's no support for the Kona card at all. We imagine that the card support will come pretty quickly, but in terms of actually controlling a deck, I'm sure there's a way a third-party tool could help with that, but there's nothing built in for that now.
And actually, I think Apple's solution to that is do the file, export to file, and then edit to tape using HAA's utility, or if you have Blackmagic or Matrox hardware, the same. And it will probably be faster because your file export, because everything is constantly rendered in the background, is a very quick file copy, and then your edit to tape will actually be accurate using a third-party tool as opposed to Final Cut 7. And then you can edit to tape without all of that building media long wait that Final Cut 7 would go to when you're trying to edit to tape. So I suspect it would be faster to edit to tape with the third-party utility in Final Cut 10 than it would be in Final Cut 7.
One of the things to keep in mind about exporting inside Final Cut 10 is that you have to export the entire project. You cannot export from an in to an out. Nor can you export individual clips, like select a clip and export it.
Or even like a still frame from the browser.
Actually, you can, because you can select the clip and open it as timeline and then export that.
Yes. Oh, by the way, there is a. I'm not sure it's a bug, but it's definitely an undocumented feature where if you open a clip in the timeline and you delete that clip that's been opened into the timeline, it will delete the clip from the timeline and from your hard disk. So
No, that's not true.
they fixed that?
No, it's not
it
true.
was
never-
misinformation.
That is misinformation. It never deleted it from the hard drive. What it did was it changed a bit inside the file so that Final Cut Pro 10 thought it had been changed and therefore was no longer showing it as being the same file. If you re-import that file again, it will be the full length of the media. It will immediately pick up all of the keywords and everything that you had for it.
Yeah.
So it's making it temporarily invisible.
It's making it temporarily unavailable to the application, even though it's in situ.
I certainly
There's
have
a
that
special
understood.
command called edit in timeline,
Yeah.
and it's not something you're probably going to use as a regular part of your workflow. So it's sort of if you go and you say, I want to edit the contents of this clip, you go into a special timeline view of that clip, and then you can make changes to it. And in that view, if you make edits, it will have this problem. But it's not something that's going to affect most people.
Okay, thank you.
And it has a very easy solution.
Yes.
Given the launch, wow, what are your instincts telling you about the possibilities of an open source option such as Lightworks? I think, all things are possible.
Give it a
I
try.
would love to see some upstart or open source alternative come up, see this as an opportunity, because competition can only help. It will help Apple, it will help Adobe, it'll help Avid, it'll help all of us. If anybody's out there considering it, please do. Bring it on. The more choices we have, the better.
Yep.
This next one's from Mike Horton. Will LAFCPUG still support 703 and still talk about it?
Yeah. Understand, I was going to get that speech because we had technical problems, but understand that LAFCPUG, despite the title and the name, has never been about just Final Cut Pro. We emphasize Final Cut Pro, but honestly, we don't give a damn what tool you use. We're about the craft of editing, we're about the art of editing, and so we'll continue to support Final Cut Pro, Final Cut X, Avid, Adobe. Where we draw the line is PC.
Michael, you have been touched. You have been touched by Apple. So I'm going to give this next question to you.
Okay.
Will the following features be added, and
wait.
if so, when? Dual monitor support?
Feeling February 2014, no, 13, 12. I'm not sure. Next one?
It's
Next
actually
one is
there already.
EDL export.
Oh, EDL, that's coming sometime.
After
maybe.
hell freezes over.
Maybe.
XML export.
XML export, definitely maybe. Definitely
Okay.
maybe.
OMF?
I don't think
wait,
OMF. No,
you know
'cause
the answer
and
to
that's an
OMF.
Avid
Yeah.
format, and we can use. Actually, no. Currently, you can use the automatic duck plugin to export an OMF. But the problem is, this is the thing. People are like, we need an OMF export. The timeline track organization of Final Cut Pro X is going to make your sound person rip their hair out. The problem is not the format that I can't give you the OMF. It's that when I give you the OMF, my sound effects are going to be mixed in with my production audio,
Well,
they're going to be mixed in with my music, and there's no way to control any of this. So the problem is not the fact that we
So
can't
Automatic
export
Duck
the
is
format.
not using the metadata, the audio roll metadata?
I don't know if they're using the roll data, but what are they doing with that roll data? They're
That would
pulling
be
it out of those
organising it into
tracks?
tracks, into virtual tracks in the
I
export.
don't know. I don't
That is
know what they're
certainly
doing.
that is certainly going to be the solution for.
They
for
are?
when-
Somebody say they are?
Yeah.
So what do you get when you export? You get a bunch of discrete tracks based on those audio roll data?
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful news. There you go.
And I think that will be the permanent solution for OMF and AAF for audio. If you need it, you'll have to pay for it.
And the last question is, when will multi-clip support come? Apple has already said to David Pogue at the New York Times that it's going to be real soon. Now, again, it takes time to develop software. So real soon for us means launch tomorrow. Real soon for a software developer means we got to write it, we got to test it, we got to make sure it works, we got to release it. So we're talking weeks, not days.
Unless it's Greg and that it is lunch tomorrow.
Can I just make a correction for something I said in my